Welcome, everybody, to the Building Aaronsburg podcast. I'm Thomas Aaronsburg.
And I'm Catherine Aaronsburg.
And today we're going to talk to you about self-awareness. This is an episode that Catherine came up with. I don't really know what she wants to talk about
You're taking no responsibility for the subject matter.
I'm going to let her take it away.
I just think it's the lack of self-awareness that happens in humanity, and maybe it's just Americans, I don't know, it's sad. It's a true sadness. And I think that if we were more self-aware, we could be better humans and better people. Don't you think?
I do. But why don't we start with kind of defining, maybe not Webster's defining, but
we're going to do a class speech where we go, Webster's dictionary defines awareness as...
Self-awareness. No, but just maybe give some examples of things that you've seen.
And by the way, this is not to say that I'm the most self-aware person on the planet. I mean...
I think everybody has their blind spots when it comes to self-awareness. Of course.
And I think most people probably think they're self-aware. I think that's probably the
greatest blind spot.
Yes, the greatest blind spot is that we all think we're self-aware, and it's a real problem. Guys, we're not self-aware at all. But I would say, examples of lack of self-awareness. Do you want to do it that way?
I got a good one, but you go ahead and give yours first, and then I'll...
Well, I grocery shop a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people park their shopping carts in the middle of an aisle and start playing on their cell phone or whatever, looking up recipes while they're shopping, move your cart to the side. Lack of self-awareness. I mean, that's just like...
That's like spatial awareness, I guess?
I guess so. But then there's things like, I got in a fight with my husband or my brother or my sister or whatever. They just don't, understand. Well, what did you contribute to this? Right. How did your attitude going into the argument or your overall, how you are as a human, did that play into maybe making that person more upset? Or, sometimes...
you had an effect in that conversation.
We complain about other people's actions a lot, but what did our role play?
Right.
And that's self-awareness.
Sure.
That is knowing what you contributed to make something really good or really bad, or the things that you could work on, because you know that... Because we're humans. We come with... nature and nurture issues that we probably need to correct and work on in our lives. And it happens throughout your entire life. You never stop working on those things, but being aware of what those are so that you can work on them is a huge thing. And then knowing how those things affect other people.
Yeah. So I'm a teacher.
Oh gosh, you probably see lack of self-awareness
every day.
The maximum.
But it reaches its pinnacle whenever we take tests, because these kids will... I don't know what you were like when you took a test, but when I finished a test, I generally felt like I had a pretty good feeling for...
If you did well or not.
I did well, or I bombed it, or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many kids will be like, oh man, coach, I just killed that test. I got an A. I don't think I missed one. I got 100. It's like, I've been watching you all week in class. There's no way you got 100.
Yeah.
Sure enough, you get the test score back, and it's nowhere near what they expected.
Do you think self-awareness is also related to responsibility, self-responsibility, taking like if these kids didn't study for the test, is it lack of awareness that they really think they did well if they didn't, or is it them not taking responsibility for?
I think
doing
in this
whatever it took to get the
specific
test right.
example. When they're in class with me, working through problems, I lead them to the end. I mean, that's what I do as a teacher. I give them the question. They don't have any idea where to start. And I'm like, well, what about this? And it starts I start like pushing them down the hill, basically. And then they kind of can put the pieces together. And every time they get stuck, I know what kind of question to ask to get them unstuck. But when you go to take a test, I don't help you on the test. Here's the question. You got to get it right. Completely on your own.
So then when the test comes back and you got an F, that's where you have to take responsibility for, okay, coach, I didn't study for that test.
Right. They thought they knew it because when they were in class, they knew it because I was helping them. But, when you went and did your homework, did you actually do your homework completely on your own, or did you copy somebody's homework? Or did you just made up answers? And so you have this false sense of security, I guess, because, well, I was able to do it when we were in class, when you were helping us, but you didn't, like maybe it is a self-responsibility that you're talking about. You didn't take the time to go do your homework and find out, do you really know it for you? Not just do you know it because I helped you, but do you know it for you?
So there's only so much you can do for your students. You can lead a. I
Right.
always say you can, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. That is applies to so many different things, and this is one of them: self-awareness. So all you can do is to give, like we're doing right now. We're talking about self-awareness, so that hopefully people out there will say to themselves, "Okay, self-awareness. Am I self-aware? Like, what does that mean to
Yeah.
me?" And then how do you teach your kids to be self-aware? How do you teach, because I mean this podcast is about all of these different subjects that we're talking about and dispersing them through the things that we do on a daily basis, which is our
Right.
jobs, our family, our home, building our house,
Yeah.
epoxy floors,
Right.
self-awareness. Like maybe
Right.
we shouldn't have done those a second time
We
on our
were,
own.
yeah, we thought we had it.
We weren't
We were gonna make
self-aware
an
on
A on
that.
that test.
Yeah. So I think what we're getting at here is even acknowledging that self-awareness is a problem, and then how do we work to become more self-aware so that we can help, solve problems within our own lives and help other people solve problems in a way that, you know,
Well, I
isn't
think
just
knowing,
escalating problems.
yeah, I agree. I think the key to self awareness is knowing what your weaknesses are, and I guess maybe knowing your strengths too, but knowing where your weaknesses are because those are the ones that are going to hurt you
Of course.
usually.
Yes.
Where you think you know something and you
Yeah.
don't really know it as well as you thought that you did, and
Right.
then you get yourself into trouble.
But self-awareness also leads to empathy, in my opinion. And empathy is also another trait that people are missing a huge chunk of, meaning being able to put not sympathy, right?
Right.
That's feeling sorry for someone when they go through something.
Right.
Empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes,
Understand their
perspective. But empathy is also knowing that you can, in most cases, that you cannot 100% put yourself in someone else's shoes,
Right.
and understanding that there's actually no way for you to completely understand what the other person is
Right.
going through. And so you can't always like completely help that person in a way they need to be helped because you've never experienced it before.
Right.
So understanding that you can't completely understand is like the ultimate, right?
Yeah,
then,
right.
because then you can tell that person, I'm so sorry that happened, or how can I help? Would this help you? But also, when it comes to arguments and things like that with people that we don't necessarily agree with, you can put yourself in their position enough to say, I was not raised exactly the way you were. I didn't
Right.
experience, we all have experienced life differently.
Absolutely.
And so we have different experiences, and I can at least say that your opinions come from the sum of all of your life experiences.
Right.
And I can at least give you that. And that's empathy. We don't have to agree, and we don't have to come to a happy.
And you're right, though. I think that is rooted in self-awareness. You have to be aware enough to know that that's true.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are willing to accept that.
It's hard. It's hard. People are so right now in the political environment we're in, I think that might be we're all missing. The
Yes.
empathy and the self-awareness. Those two things go together very well. And I apologize because I'm not a junior psychologist here. It's just, this is my experience with people and getting along with people and running a business. And my clients are all different. And the people that I hire are all different. And they come from different places.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all humans. And if you can talk to people and create relationships and understand where they come from and understand that you can never completely know what they've experienced, and so you can't completely get in their head, you can do the best you can, that you're going to have some really amazing relationships and some really amazing outcomes with people that you don't agree with on 99% of things.
Yeah.
It can happen.
Right.
We can do these things.
As long as you have to be willing to accept that, though. And I think that acceptance is where people have a lot of issue. Like I don't believe your whatever political or religious ideology, but you have to just accept that yours is different and mine's different. But we can still.
It's the agree to disagree. We used to be able to say that. We can just agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
And not in a mean way, not in an ugly way. Like, fine, we'll just agree to disagree. It's like,
we'll agree to disagree, but you're wrong.
Yeah, yeah, you like that. It has to be a true, just understanding that we're going to have to agree to disagree, and that's okay.
Right.
It's going to be all right.
All right, well, let's take a little break, and when we come back, I want to dive into sort of how to improve your self-awareness maybe or heighten your self-awareness.
Let's do it.
Welcome back, everybody. We were talking about self-awareness and led into a little conversation about empathy, and I guess the reason I wanted to kind of take a break and then come back to it was I feel like this is sort of begging the question because it's not enough just to talk about this. Like, how can we get better at being more self-aware
and more empathetic?
Being more empathetic. And I will start with this. I would say the first part of it is that you have to be willing to accept that you are not a very empathetic person, and that you're not super self-aware.
But that takes self-awareness to do those things.
Right.
It's a real catch-22,
it really
isn't it?
But I think that's where it starts because, the example you gave at the beginning of the podcast about you're in the grocery store and you stop in the middle of the aisle with your buggy because you're reading something or whatever. That's me.
Drives me nuts.
100% me.
Yeah.
Right? And when we first got married, I was oblivious to the fact that that was even a thing. Like, I would just be shopping, because I shop all the time. Not. But because I shop so rarely, I didn't know there's like an etiquette probably to the shopping.
There's not really, but I guess there's
probably a common courtesy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably some misunderstood.
But I feel like that's being a human. It's not even a grocery store thing. It's like you open a door for someone. If they're right behind you, you continue to hold
it open. Right.
Yeah, like it's funny because there's like a distance away from me where I'm judging. Like, is that person too far away for me to continue to hold the door? Like, what's ridiculous?
They're right at that limit. Where it's disrespectful if you.
Yeah, generally I hold it open if if they're like getting out of their car halfway down the parking lot. I think
it's an eye contact thing too. If you've looked at me in the eye, it's like now I got to hold the door for you.
Yes.
But getting back to the grocery store example, you were the first person to point that out to me. Like, get to the side. You were standing in the middle of the aisle, and
it's so rude.
And then you turn around and look like, oh my gosh, I am. Like, there's someone behind me probably trying to get by me. And I don't doubt that at some point I am trying to get around someone else that's doing the same thing.
Right. Put your head on a swivel, as you would say.
Yes.
Your head should be on a swivel no matter where you are.
So I didn't even realize that. Now, because you've told me that 14 years ago, whatever it was, it is something I do pay attention to now. I'm still not great at it. Again, I lack the experience. I don't shop enough to.
And I do the same thing with our kids too.
In an aisle.
Our kids, now we've got 4 kids. Imagine us shopping with 4 kids in tow, which we don't
take up a lot of space.
We don't do often, but sometimes we'll go shopping for shoes. It's not groceries necessarily, right. But the kids will tend to spread out across an aisle, right. And I'm constantly corralling them into a single file line, or at least within the width of your and my, half the aisle, so that they're not trying to teach them that self-awareness of, look, there's people coming down the aisle. This woman's trying to stock the shelves. There are other people in this world besides you that you need to be aware of around you.
Right.
It's not all about
that's where I was leading then is, one, you have to be willing to accept it, but then 2, you have to sort of surround yourself with people that are going to tell you these things.
True.
Because if you never existed, I would probably still be standing in the middle of the grocery aisle, not paying any attention to people that are around me trying to get by me.
Yeah, gentle leading.
Or whatever.
For sure. But I think a fair way to start learning a little bit, just reflecting back maybe, not even currently, but looking back on maybe some past things that have happened where someone got upset with you about something.
Right.
And being able to look back and say, what role did I play in that? So use past examples of things if you can think of them. If you're anything like me, I'm an anxiety mess and I replay situations in my brain 1,000,000 times over and never let them go. So I could probably come up with 100 different arguments or conversations where I said something I shouldn't have or did something I shouldn't have. And if you're like that, then you can probably recall some times where something happened where you can now look back and try to gain some empathy and try to gain some self-awareness and say, what role did I play in that?
Right.
How was that person, maybe they were upset that day and they were trying, and I didn't realize they were upset and I ended up stoking the fire instead of, putting the fire out.
Right.
And maybe I shouldn't have gotten as upset because that didn't help the situation. If I had just done this, and that would have, maybe it would have led to something different. Maybe they had a bad day and just weren't telling me about it. Like reading the room and reading a situation, and we may have talked about it last podcast, but It's not always about you. Sometimes
Yeah.
people are in a mood because something that has nothing to do with you, and we take it personally, and then we like add on and
Yeah, I know you
make it
talked you
worse.
talked in a previous episode about that, how we do that with our children. How, the kids go to school, something happens, so and so picked on me, they pushed me, whatever. And instead of saying, well, you need to get upset about that, so and so might be having a bad day.
Yeah, it's not about
Something
you.
may have happened that morning. Maybe their dog died or grandma's sick or
So I guess in that way we are teaching them self-awareness and
right.
well that's more empathy, I guess, than it is self-awareness.
Yes.
But I really do think the two come together as a package. Because if you can empathize with someone else, hopefully you can do that about yourself. I mean, self-awareness almost seems like it,
Self-empathy almost.
self-empathy.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you're looking back at yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And see the situations that you're in.
Yeah.
But you said something that made me think. I don't know that people take a lot of time to reflect on on their life. I know that I teach high school kids, they're teenagers, and anytime they have a quiet moment, they like the silence is so unsettling to them
Mhm. It's a huge
that they
problem
need
right
to, like,
now.
I need to get a device out. I need to get something out. Like I can't just sit here in silence
That's a huge
and
problem
just
for
think
me.
about stuff.
I want to be listening to a podcast to learn something. I want to be listening to an audiobook to it's not even about entertainment. It's like I feel like quiet moments are wasted moments.
Right.
That's how I interpret them. And I know that that's not necessarily a good thing, and it is good. The quiet moments are good, but I also think that I'm capable of I guess I am quiet sometimes in the car or something because I
Right.
do think I'm not maximum empathetic or maximum self-aware, of course, but I do think that I've
I'll say,
trained myself in a way to think of them even not in the quiet times. So
yeah.
maybe it's a mind training thing.
Well, I know that when I work out in the morning, a lot of times I'm just listening to music, but
Yeah.
sometimes I'll put on like an ebook or something. I'll be listening, but at
You
some
zone
point,
out.
right, like you zone out,
Yeah.
or
And
if
so you
I'm
are just
listening, like
thinking.
I'm listening to a book right now, and they'll say something,
Right.
and then like immediately, like I'm no longer listening to the next
Yes.
25 things the guy's saying.
Yes.
I'm taking those things and I'm like,
Yes.
oh, how does that apply to my life, and how can
Same.
I take that?
Mhm.
So in a way, that is maybe you're finding that quiet space for you to be
I
reflective.
like things that make me think. I like to listen to things that spark some thought in me because so much in my business I have been by myself. Until recently I haven't had employees and every decision and every thought I had was me asking myself a question
Right.
and Lord knows it's an echo chamber in there. And so Catherine, what do you think? Should you hire an employee? I don't
Yes.
know, Catherine. Should I hire him? Like having having some not advice, but listening to something that gives me some thought as to whether or not my decisions are a good idea or
Right.
not. So I think you're right. That's how I process things too. With some sort
So
of
you don't like the complete silence. You prefer the almost like white noise.
yes,
I mean, it's not really
background
white noise,
noise.
but it's something that maybe gets your thought process
Yeah.
going.
Silence is extremely loud to me.
No, it's not to me. I love the silence. I love to just sit somewhere silent and think about.
You're a thinker.
Well, I know that there are. I'm trying to think of what happened today. Oh, I know what it was. So we were at mass this morning, and we went to a church that we don't normally go to. And during the intentions, they normally read the list of intentions. We're going to pray for this and pray for this and pray for this, and we're going on with life. And Father said, "Does anyone have any special intentions?" Caught me off guard, and like
In
I
that church,
saw,
they all just raise their
I know
hand.
people raise hand. I was like, wait, I think I probably have some. I remember thinking,
I don't have time to think about
that's
it.
exactly what I thought. I was like, I need to take some time to think about the people I need to pray for.
Right
Because,
before you
like,
even get
as
there.
soon as he said it, we had maybe a 5 seconds before we were
We
on
had
to the
moved
next
on.
thing. And I was like, wait, I know I got this guy's going through this, and we're on the
Hey,
next thing.
here's
you
the
know?
deal
And,
though. Lucky you, he wasn't actually asking you that
no,
question.
I know.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He was
Yeah.
asking very generally.
The way they do it is he asks that, and people raise their hand, and he just acknowledges it with a nod
Yeah,
or a
like,
look,
all
like,
right, everyone's got their hand up. We're moving on.
and let's pray for those intentions. Move on.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to call your name, Thomas. It's
No,
okay.
I didn't think he was. I wasn't expecting him to.
Were you going to panic?
But
Like
it
in the
made me
classroom?
think when it was done, I was like, I need to take some time.
Yes.
I need like
What are you
a
actually
quiet
doing
15
in church?
minutes
Yeah.
where I can like gather thoughts like that, people that I need to pray for.
Put me at the top, please. Can you put me at the top of your list to pray for?
I do. I always start with family. That's like the number one thing, my family. And then like in my mind, I'm going through a
And
guy that I work with.
and
His
then
wife has surgery,
and then you
you
start thinking
know.
about Jocko Willick, and then you're off
Well,
to something else.
no, it's just there's a whole list of people that I thought of that I need to pray for that I felt like I was being rushed and I didn't
But you
have the
wouldn't have felt
time.
rushed if you had thought about it previous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I like those quiet times. I like quiet time to reflect on whatever. Just various things come up.
I don't, because I'll come up with a task list for myself. Those are what I do with quiet time. The listening to podcasts and listening to audiobooks are more constructive listening for
Right.
me, and
They kind of
constructive
force you
thoughts.
into that,
Yeah, which I appreciate and I need.
self-reflection kind of stuff.
I need that. But again, knowing the kind of listener that you
That's
are, or
right.
the kind of quiet time versus whatever, that's self-awareness.
Right. And I'll say this. Yes, I do like the quiet time, but I do also, probably not nearly as much as you do, I do like to sometimes just put something on and listen to it or read stuff.
Now,
Like I like to read
defining
articles that make me think about where I stand. Or
Sure.
where do I stand with that? What do I think about this?
Sure. Yeah, considering all the sides. I
Right.
love to consider all the sides, but I think that that's part of empathy and self-awareness too.
Yeah.
I think self-awareness is more of a personal thing, like a one-on-one or a group to one, empathy toward someone you might know. When you're reading articles about sides of a larger political or religious thing, that's probably, I guess
Oh
it's still
yeah, yeah.
empathy.
I know. But again, it like expands. Like I'm not just looking at me, but how do I fit into this whole
Yeah.
United
How do I feel
States, the
about,
world?
yeah.
Whatever. I'll say too. This is kind of been a blessing, I guess. I think this podcast is extremely self-reflective because I know these are the reason we started this podcast initially is because we talk all the time about everything, the most random of things. Um, but this, like, we have things that we talk about. Like it's like it's structured,
Mm-hmm.
and so like it's a deeper dive into our own lives and our own thought process. I think it's definitely something that's helped build a lot of self awareness about where I am as a dad,
Yeah.
as a
How
husband.
you feel about everything.
Right.
Your position on all these things.
Yeah, because I have to talk about it
Yeah.
and I like use actual words and articulate in
Right.
words that people that are listening to this are going to understand. I
And
can't
relate
just
to, yeah.
in my mind define things in my own head using made up words that I probably have for things.
And
That,
I would say that that's been a huge thing in our marriage, is that I'm the talker. If you guys couldn't tell, I'm the talker. And so I talk all the time. And like I tell Thomas things that probably don't even matter, but I talk. Like if it happens, he knows about it. Whereas in his brain, he kind of is quiet and keeps everything in. He talks to me more than, like, he's louder than people at his people he works with and things probably give him credit for, and his students and things like that don't hear him talk much. He talks
right.
more here at home, but still you don't say things out loud as much as you could. And so I'm always saying, I had no idea you thought that about that. So now I'm learning even more. I'm getting to actually hear the things because you're
Right.
being forced to put them out into a podcast at this point,
Yeah,
which is
I know
nice.
that's why yeah, I think this has been a real blessing for me because these are all things that I do think about.
Yeah.
But when am I ever going to say them? Like, who cares what I think about self-awareness?
This is your outlet.
Right.
You now have an outlet. We gave ourselves an outlet.
Right.
No one
It's
asked
now
us.
out of my brain into this microphone.
Doesn't it feel freeing?
But that's not the word I would have used, but
It just doesn't feel like it's cluttered up there anymore. That's how I always feel like there's things cluttered up in my brain. And once I get them out, I've freed so many tabs, closed so many tabs.
yeah.
For getting to talk about all this stuff.
Maybe I don't see it that way. I would say it's more of a they're being put like it's all this information's up there, and when it comes out of my mouth, it's put into a file. So it's like
this podcast is your personal filing cabinet.
Yes,
your audio filing cabinet.
It's my thought process filing cabinet.
All right, you ready to go to break, and then we're going to come back with a listener question.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to take a question from one of our listeners. The question is, y'all seem to get along so well. Is it really like that in real life? Question mark.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
The answer is yes. We get along really well. We married our best friend. I married my best friend. He married his best friend. And we still like each other a lot. Like a lot, a lot. We respect each other, which I think is huge. So that's where it starts.
I think we communicate well with each other. Like, we don't keep secrets from each other.
Right.
Um,
But you're so easygoing. I mean, we have two completely different personality types.
right.
I mean, you talk about yin and yang. Like, we're just so different. I'm so anxiety ridden and so uptight and just high strung, and you're completely the opposite.
I'm
Like,
go with the flow.
you're very go with the flow.
Very
Things.
adaptable is the way
Yeah,
I like to see myself.
and
I
I
like to be
think
adaptable.
you are. You are. I mean, it's not even like I want to be. You just are.
Right.
That's just your personality. I think the things that most couples argue about, things like finances and money, and the biggest stressors in marriage, even though we don't make a lot of money, we make it work, and um we don't fight about money.
Well, I think that's where we are. So this is kind of in the last episode we talked about, um, like finding that person that's going to be
Right.
like the person you love or whatever.
Yeah.
I do think personality wise, yes, there's a lot of yin and yang there, but in terms of like ideologies,
Oh,
we are
similar.
very similar.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean, when it
yes.
comes to stuff like spending money, neither of us likes to spend money.
Right. Raising
Um,
children, very
we are
similar.
almost we would raise our children if we were married to two different other people. We would
We were,
still raise our children the same way.
yes.
Um,
We believe in treating people, kindly and, business wise, and sometimes to our own detriment. Like in
yeah,
work, I know that you'll do things sometimes that aren't your best interests because, of certain things. So I think, like you said, ideologically, we're almost identical. Personality type is very different, but that works for us.
right.
And I know a lot of people will say, do you guys go on date nights or do you do whatever? We're huge
Not as much as we would like to,
we're
probably.
huge
But
homebodies. I mean,
yeah.
I don't enjoy going out to eat. Like, I think it's just
No, but getting a break from the kids and having a night where it's just us.
yeah. I would rather just put the kids in bed early and watch a movie than
I
I would
100% agree.
like get dressed up and go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's just such an effort.
Yes.
And when the kids were younger, of course, we have family in town, which has been a huge blessing for us. That could help us out with kids when we needed to, especially if one was sick and we need to take one to a doctor or something like that. But we've never been the date your husband, date your wife kind of people. We do go on walks together. Now that the kids are a little older, they can stay by themselves for 20 or 30 minutes while we go on a walk,
Right.
which has been huge because then we have these types of conversations. The
Right.
conversations that you guys are hearing right now in this podcast are the conversations that we have when we go on walks together, and we're able to just have to ourselves 20 to 30 minutes to just talk about adult things.
Right.
What's going on with work, the things that, you don't want to talk about in front of your kids because you don't want them overhearing.
Well, it's things they don't need to know. If we have an issue at school and we're talking about one of their teachers, they don't need to
Sure.
know what we think about a certain
Right.
teacher and who was right and who was wrong. And
Which we could have a whole other podcast on our opinions about what to talk about in front of your children and what not to. Because I think sometimes adults get into talking with other adults either on the phone or in person about teachers at school or bosses or coaches. Oh gosh, coaches especially. And it starts to get into your children that
Right.
they have some sort of superiority over. It's like you have
Right.
to teach them that. Anyway, we can talk about that another time. But yeah, we don't date each other necessarily, I don't think, but marrying your best friend, having someone with the exact same ideology, at least very, very similar, even if your personality types are different, is how we've made it work thus far. You guys, it's only been 14 years, which seems like a long
Right.
time to some people, but we're going for like 65 or 70, hopefully.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. So
Which I'll say too, that's also something that, like when we got married, this was not like, hey, we're getting married for 10 years and we'll find somebody else after that.
no one does that.
You don't think so?
No, Thomas, that's so dumb. I hate to say that's dumb.
Gosh,
but
I really do think that people do that.
no.
Not on purpose.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're acting like people get married
No,
and say,
like,
this is
okay,
only going to last
right.
10 years.
I don't think that they do that on purpose. Like, will you marry me for 10 years? I think it's you are a person that matches my lifestyle right now. And so you're the person I want to marry. And it's not like this, my lifestyle might change. And so.
Well, who thinks your lifestyle is going to change?
I think people don't pay attention to it. I guess maybe that's a good little circle back on our self-awareness here. Is that yes, like if our lifestyle changed, we got super rich.
Yeah.
Or we just got more poor than we already are. But, I mean, like the way that
I'd still be shopping at Marshalls and TJ
Yes.
Maxx. I would still be telling people that I shopped at Goodwill. It would not matter.
Most of the clothes I wear would still come from McGill.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just, I don't think that those kind of things would change.
There are things that are just
who
in
we
your
are.
DNA. Yeah.
Right.
It's like when people drink alcohol, they say it doesn't change your personality, it exacerbates,
reveals you.
it reveals your personality. Right. Yeah. I'm such a happy.
I'm trying to think of who we are as drinkers. We don't drink a lot.
We don't. We barely drink at all. Like, barely at all, but I'm happy.
Yeah, I think I am too. I don't know. I drink way less than you do.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to put a big silent pause there.
Oh, do I drink more than you do?
No, I'm just saying you're like, I drink way less than you do.
Well, you drink.
You
drink one drink. I drink half a drink.
Every month. Once a month. Right. Lightweights. Telling you guys we're boring. We're 80.
But we're boring together.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all we have for our episode on empathy/self-awareness. If you guys have any questions, you can email us or stories. We like your stories.
We haven't gotten a lot of stories. We get questions.
Yeah, but not a lot of stories. But
comments. We get a lot of comments.
Yeah. You can email your questions to buildingaaronsburg@gmail.com. You can visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Building Aaronsburg. And my personal Instagram is Catherine Aaronsburg. You guys spell Aaronsburg right. ARENSBERG. Until next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.